practice, meditation, and Vinaya training. In 2007, he was entrusted with the leadership of Wat Pa Nanachat, where he guides a diverse international Sangha with remarkable steadiness, humility, and compassion. Ajahn Kewali is widely respected for his clear and gentle way of presenting the Buddha Dharma, making profound teachings accessible to practitioners from around the world. And his presence at international gatherings brings the living spirit of the forest tradition back to the sacred land of India. I'm also happy to say that he is guiding a new temple here called the Ariana Vihara Sangha Dhamma, and that is under our dear Dhamma brother Anish Gol. And this year we're proud to have them as one of our founding partners for ITCC India. So with a warm welcome, we would like to request Venerable Ajahn Kewali to begin.
Sadhu, sadhu. जो आचरण टॉक करेंगे उसको समराइज हमारा पूज्य आनंद बंते जी करेंगे हिंदी भाषा में, जिसको अंग्रेजी समझ नहीं आता है आचार्य के टॉक को आनंद बंते जी समराइज करेंगे। थैंक यू। Thank you, Ajahn. We are very happy to see you. Seeing you already feels very peaceful under this beautiful Bodhi tree. Now I request Bante to lead the Vandana.
अभी सभी लोग बंते जी को वंदना करेंगे। नमस्कार कीजिए। सभी लोग हाथ जोड़ के अभी भंते जी को वंदना करके हाँ बोलेंगे। ओकास वंदामि भंते द्वारत्तयेन कथं सब्बं अपराधं क्षमथ मे भंते द्वितीयंपि ओकास वंदामि भंते द्वारत्तयेन कथं सब्बं अपराधं क्षमथ मे भंते तृतीयंपि ओकास वंदामि भंते द्वारत्तयेन कथं सब्बं अपराधं क्षमथ मे भंते अनुकंपं उपादाय साधु क्षमामि भंते। साधु साधु। तो अभी सब भंते जी को वंदना किए हैं. So now we all humbly request Bhante ji to give the Dhamma Desana.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Kiccho manusso patilapo. Kichang machana jivitang, kichang sathamma savanang, kicho puttha nam uppadoti. May I request the most venerable elders, Mahatheras, that are present here around the Bodhi tree, Venerable Sanghasena Mahathero, and all the elders here, and the Thai Sangha elders in the tent over there, and extend my warm greetings in the Dhamma to all of you, all of the Upasakas, Upasikas, and wish us all a good, inspiring time here, coming together in harmony, Samakhi, which we recited many times today in the recitation of the Vinaya Pitaka, the Buddhist monastic code in Pali language. Of course, this is a very special occasion for all of us, including myself, and also the group of organizers led by Mrs. Wangmo Dixie and her team, including right now under this setting, the Mahabodhi Society, Bengaluru, and all the helpers on the ground, the Mahabodhi Temple Committee, for example. So it is very beautiful that we have this opportunity. It's not easy to be born in a situation where we get the access to the teachings of the Buddha, or as we say, the Dhamma. And as you know, the Dhamma is actually more than the Buddha's teaching. The Dhamma is there already, and the Buddha was a human being who discovered the Dhamma, rediscovered it. Like an old city, overgrown, he gradually went through the thicket and cut off all the creepers and vines and found the ruins of some old fascinating city, and that's the old city of Dhamma. And particularly being in India, I believe all of us can relate to the idea of there being much ancient heritage underground, some of it already arising right in front of us or in my back, the Mahabodhi Chedi and the Vajra Asana that the Lord Buddha himself was sitting in meditation on 2,600 years ago, and realized that the Dhamma is there in nature as a principle for life, for all animals, human beings, all creatures, all beings. And he realized that the Dhamma is something that can be an aid to all of us in our practice when we fight with obstacles to peace, and when we try to live a life in harmony with nature, with society. The Buddha discovered also very practical ways of approaching this realization of the universal Dhamma. So we have the wonderful universal Dhamma, for example, that's reflected in the fact that we come together by so many different countries, different regions, even all over India. There's so many different languages even. And then we have like many people coming from all the South Asian countries and a few coming from further away, but via stopover to some Asian countries. Myself, for example, I come from Germany, but my stopover place is Thailand. That's where I grew up as a bhikkhu, as a monk. And so that's where I immediately come from. Actually, there is a story of the Buddha asking a little girl in the assembly, where do you come from? And the girl says, I don't know. And all the grown-ups say, huh? You're making fun of the Buddha. And she said, no, I really don't know. If I knew, I'd be very, very happy. So we have lots of causes and conditions that make up this particular existence. And it is amazing that we have a confluence of so many different existences coming together here under the sacred Bodhi tree in front of the Vajra Asana, the diamond seat where the Lord Buddha was meditating and realizing the universality of, we can say, nature or the Dhamma as he expounded it later in tedious ways, like many, many little details. Those who have chanted the Vinaya Pitaka today know how many details there are in the explicit Dhamma teaching. The Dhamma teaching is very, very profound, big, vast, universal, but yet the Lord Buddha pinned it down to little things here and there. For example, when you approach a place of reverence, you take off your chappals. Even that, he had compassion to point that out. It's like we're in kindergarten, we need to learn the basic things, and the realized one says, do this, it's good for you. There's very many little things that we can pick up in the teachings of the Buddha, especially also as monks and nuns. We have like the whole etiquette of the life in following the Buddha, because the Buddha himself, he designated this way of life for his disciples, saying you renounce the world and you don't go astray to all kinds of things that are amusing, entertaining, or like fun, or say deceiving, or too delicious, or addictive. And you come back to your inner world where you can find peace, where you can find some inner source of strength that we wouldn't find if we were outside. Even just hearing the cars, the tuk-tuks outside, we're so blessed that we have a silent space and have a place where we can come inside and develop the Dhamma, the peace, the freedom from suffering in our hearts. So I'd like to ask Venerable Anandaji to be so kind to give a brief summary of what I was saying in Hindi.
नमो बुद्धाय। सभी को, जितने महासंघ है, वंदना करते हुए, सभी को मेत्ता करते हुए, केवली भंते जी का इस धम्म देशना को हिंदी में थोड़ा उसका संक्षिप्त सारांश बताने के लिए मुझे कहा है। सबसे पहले हम सभी लोग इधर आए हैं, दूर दूर से आए हैं, अलग अलग जगह से आए हैं। आज जैसे इधर पाठ किया है, उसमें भगवान बुद्ध मिलजुल के रहने का बारे में, मिलने का बारे में बहुत बार बताए हैं। आज बहुत बार हम लोगों ने इसको पाठ किया है। तो इस वज्रासन के पास बैठ के हम लोग बैठे हैं। ये जो है भगवान बुद्ध का धम्म जो है, वो सिर्फ उपदेश नहीं है, वो जो सच्चाई है, जो भगवान बुद्ध जैसे कि एक पुराना शहर से जंगल में जो डूब गया होगा, ऐसा पुराना शहर को खोज निकाल के हम लोगों को दिया है, ऐसा धम्म हम लोगों को दिया है। तो भंते जी बोल रहे हैं कि भंते जी खुद को भी यहाँ आने का इतना एक बहुत अच्छा बहुत खुशी का मौका मिला है। आप लोग सभी का अलग अलग इंडिया का अलग अलग जगह से, दुनिया का अलग अलग जगह से सब मिलके एक जुड़ के हम लोग जब रहते हैं, ये बहुत बड़ा सुखदायक है बोल के भंते जी ने बताया। भगवान बुद्ध के बारे में बहुत श्रद्धा से भंते जी, भगवान बुद्ध कितना करुणा से हम लोगों को ये धम्म सिखाया है, इसका बारे में बताया। तो हम लोग इधर आए हैं तो इसको तो कुछ कारण होंगे, कारण स्थिति अगर नहीं है तो ऐसा मिलजुल के नहीं आ सकता है। हम लोग कहाँ था, कहाँ से आया, अभी कहाँ से आया बोल के भगवान एक लड़की को पूछते हैं तो वो बोलती है कि मुझे मालूम नहीं है। उन्होंने बोला कि दूसरा लोग बोला कि क्या आप मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं भगवान का, घर से तो आई हो तुम। नहीं, मगर मैं पहले जन्म में कहाँ था, अभी कहाँ से आया वो तो मुझे मालूम नहीं है। तो इस तरह हम लोग भी कहाँ से क्या क्या करके इधर मिलजुल के आए हैं, इसके लिए बहुत हम लोग खुशी होना। और इस वज्रासन के पास बैठ के, ऐसा बैठ के धम्म को सुनने के लिए, सीखने के लिए मौका है। और भगवान बुद्ध का करुणा कितना है बोलने से, बहुत छोटा चीज को भी भगवान बताते हैं। जैसे चप्पल को कैसा छोड़ना, कहाँ छोड़ना, ऐसा छोटा चीज को भी भगवान हम लोगों को सिखाते हैं ये महाकरुणा का कारण से, ताकि ये जो पालन किया तो हम लोगों का प्रगति होगा, हम लोगों का मन बढ़ेगा। तो अंदर का जो शांति है वो पाने के लिए बाहर का शांति इधर है ही है, और अंदर का शांति को हम लोग पा सकते हैं।
Thank you. So the great compassion of the Buddha to spell out the truth that he found is very amazing, and also the timelessness, not only of the universal principles, but also of the things that we can still practice in daily life for ourselves when we emulate the way of the Buddha. And the Buddha was kind and giving us advice on all levels, and I find it really fascinating. Also for myself, sometimes I get inspired by the very high teachings, the teachings of letting go and being completely with myself without any contact or so, and just renouncing whatever I can. But then I come back and then there's so-and-so talking and this and that on the list to do, and I have to go back to managing things in normal life skillfully and kindly and also peacefully, not to fall prone to the kilesas, the defilements of mind, like greed, hatred, and the sense of ignorance or delusion, where we just don't want to deal with anything and we narcoticize ourselves with something of the senses. And but like the dominant ones are many times like that, we get angry or irritated. We have our access to peace whenever we do formal practice, for example meditation, and many of us do meditate regularly. I know when so many of us are sitting here in very firm meditation, well established in mindfulness, and feeling a sense of moving inwards. At the same time, all of us have some things to do outside the meditation, and we need to be careful that after having been so peaceful and so kind while we're sitting still, that we also emanate this peace and kindness when we open our eyes and meet others, and that we don't get irritated or say averse to things and overly infatuated. That means like overly enamored, loving things so much that later we cause trouble for ourselves. So it takes a lot of skills in life, both to go inward and also to go outward, and then do the things that are helping that the inner peace gets emanated to the outside. And all of us who are here, I would say we're really privileged by having this power spot of peace here in Bodh Gaya, with so many well-meaning practitioners, it creates an atmosphere of energy, of wholesomeness, of spiritual potential. And I really truly wish that all of us can keep this in our heart. And whenever we go back out on the road or on a pilgrimage to other sites where sometimes things don't go the way that we planned them, or even when we fly back to our mother countries or take the train overnight, and things outwardly change at such a high pace that we almost cannot bridge the gap between our inner peace that we just had here under the Bodhi tree and then that we need out there in this busy world. Also, the busy world is like getting more and more tense. As monks, actually, we live quite secluded from the worldly happenings, but as the abbot in charge of a monastery, you kind of have an eye on things that are happening around, because just like a family father, you're responsible for a whole group of people that need to have the conditions right for practice. And it's sometimes not easy. So we're blessed with the opportunity to practice. And if things become unpeaceful, and if there is a negative energy, aversion, we even more need to have access to that source of peace inside. And this training ground here in Bodh Gaya is really good. It sometimes feels so inspiring that actually maybe there's some extra portion that we can really keep deep inside, and whenever we go back to our normal life or abnormal life, however you put it, then we can use some of that and pacify the waves of the tides, of the storms, of the typhoons, the tornadoes. Maybe we can manage to be more still, just thinking about the opportunity that we have had here coming together and being focused on peace, focused on the Buddha's awakening, and also focused on the Buddha's teachings. So the recitation today for me was very inspiring as well. It's not only about the very abstract big dhammas that cover everything. For example, the Four Noble Truths, like about suffering, the cause of suffering, cessation of suffering, and the path leading to cessation of suffering, but also about the inner way of relating to these things, keeping them, but then having all these particulars. For example, today reciting the rules of the monks, which are very meticulous, very detailed, and they're all about trouble. Even monks cause trouble. So we need to be aware of that. And it's been like this at the time of the Buddha already. We talked about the members of the group of 6. They are the troublemakers in the life of the Sangha in the times of the Buddha. Assaji and Punabhasaka, Metya and Bhumajaka, Panduka Lohitaka. These are infamous names of troublemakers. They are the source of so many reactions of the Buddha releasing guidelines for us to do better, to be more respectful and to be more aware of the consequences of our actions. And for the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, this is very well spelled out in the rules that we have, the Shila. Shila for the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis is very refined. And actually, at the recitation today, we are in that terrain where there are really many minor training rules. We have already recited in the last 2 years the 227 training rules for the bhikkhus, which are the major outline, the things that are really confessed every fortnight by the bhikkhus, that every bhikkhu really needs to know. And we have the recitation, the Patimokkha, which will be demonstrated on the 5th at the full moon, and for all of us to hear. But then there are all the small rules which the Buddha just said, this is a wrongdoing. For example, wearing your shoes, and rules of respect, or things that we talked about today, the misbehavior of a certain monk. It was incremental misbehavior. He was like, they were doing worldly things like playing around, chatting, and going to do sports and telling possibly lottery numbers and things like that, and making jokes all the time. They weren't restrained monks. They were actually quite shameless and worldly. So the Buddha then said, okay, you deal with all these little things in a way that the Sangha takes responsibility, and points out a real bhikkhu should be restrained, should be focusing inside and taking the inner peace to the outer world, not emulating the chaos of the outer world. So this is one of the things that was recited today. There's also another very interesting small little story where the bhikkhus were invited by Chitta, a householder, and invited them for a meal. And Chitta, the householder, he had wonderful resources and provided an opulent meal, very, we would say, 5-star buffet. And at the buffet table, a certain bhikkhu called Sudamma, he said, oh, there's plenty of things here, but this one is missing, sesame seeds, I think. And Chitta then replied, for those who speak Pali, maybe they can give a very vivid translation. I only remember dimly something like, okay, this is like the crow of a cock, which is not very pleasant to hear. Out of all the good things that the bhikkhus could talk about, the teachings of the Buddha, you chose to speak, to do the cock-a-doodle-doo of a cock, basically. Instead of talking Dhamma, you talk animal stuff. And then the Sudamma got angry. He was still having anger, and he was defiled. And then the Buddha heard about it. It was brought to the Lord Buddha, and the Buddha said, look, the Venerable Sudamma should ask for pardon from the lay community, because that's unfitting, that's not beautiful. They've given so much, and you criticize for minor things and criticize out of kilesas. And so the section that we recited today even contains the opportunity of monks and nuns that have misbehaved to be asked by the whole Sangha to apologize for their misbehavior. And this is a very, very beautiful thing to keep in mind, that so many times we have this give and take. And in one way, even though we're practicing in different frameworks, we're all in the same boat. We've all got the same tendency to make mistakes and do unbeautiful things. When we've lost our mindfulness, when we've lost our inner peace, then we make things that we later regret. But we can apologize and we can ask for forgiveness. And one of the beautiful traditions that we have is just at the beginning of this Dhamma talk, Venerable Bhante Anandati, he just also led an asking for forgiveness chant before inviting myself to give the Dhamma. This is one of the very beautiful traditions within the Theravada Sangha, is that whenever we meet somebody, we meet him or her humbly and we ask for forgiveness. If there's anything that was offensive that I've done, may you please be so kind, forgive me. By body, speech and mind, let us not have unwholesome karma between us. So these are little things that are spelled out in the Pali language. And when we recite under the sacred Bodhi tree here now, a lot of these little procedures, traditions, they are there in the original words of the Buddha. And I find that very inspiring. Daily life at the time of the Buddha, where people were offended by each other, people were critical of each other, monks, lay people were misbehaving, and the Buddha corrected it and gave the skillful means and the words that are at the heart of the old Pali tradition, the Theravada tradition. We use many of the old formulas still to the very present day for the same little mistakes that people make all over the centuries. So we have the big Dhammas, the Four Noble Truths, the three characteristics,
the search for peace and letting go in ourselves, but we also have those little skillful means, those little pointers by the Buddha. Do this, don't do that. This one is a wrongdoing, a dukkata, something that's not so well done. Do is always not good, and kata is, as you will know from Hindi, Sanskrit, it's like something that was done wrongly. And then the opposite is obviously something sukhata, something well done. So the Buddha was kind enough to point out all these things. And this is what I like about the Vinaya, the rules of the monks, that you see all the daily life situations that come up within the Sangha towards the laity or the other way around. And they're all under the umbrella of the big, beautiful, universal Dhammas that actually we try to let go of our sense of pride, ego, entitlement, the sense of superiority, sense of privilege. We all try to let go of that, and sometimes we cannot quite do it. And then we're so glad that there is a way in the tradition to make amends for that. The monks and nuns can really give many examples of that, where we are so happy that we have a Vinaya procedure, some of the little things that the Buddha pointed out where we can correct ourselves. And so that's one of the beautiful things. For me, under the Bodhi tree, it's the universal powerhouse, the navel of the Dhamma, like where the Buddha just got this like huge insight that's unbelievably beautiful and universally for everybody it speaks for itself. And then we're sitting here and reciting all the little things that the Buddha had to tell towards his disciples when they were misbehaving. So we have real life and we have the ultimate aim of our practice at the same time. Please give a summary.
बंते जी बहुत सुंदर से बताए हैं। भगवान बुद्ध का ये जो करुणामयी धम्म है, ये तो समयातीत है, हमेशा के लिए, आज भी हम लोगों के लिए बहुत जरूरी है। और हम लोगों का जो स्वार्थ है, इसको कैसे हम लोग निकाल सकता है। जब स्वार्थ निकाल सकता है तो अंदर में हमारा मन शांत हो जाता है। और जैसे लोभ हो गया, द्वेष हो गया, अज्ञान हो गया, ये सब का अंदर कैसा नहीं फंसना, इसका बारे में भगवान बुद्ध बहुत छोटा छोटा बातों को लेके भी समझाते हैं। और चाहे वो अंदर का शांति हो, हम लोग तो ध्यान करके तो शांति पाते हैं, मगर जब बाहर का दुनिया में आते हैं तो उस समय कैसा हम लोग उसको मैनेज करते हैं, उसका बारे में हम लोग सोचना है। बाहर में भी ऐसी शांति को ये करना है। अंदर का जो शांति है, बाहर वो प्रज्वलित होके आना है। अभी इधर बुद्ध गया में बैठते हुए हम लोगों को एक बहुत विशेष शक्ति भी मिलता है इधर। और हम लोगों का जीवन में हो सकता है कभी कभी तूफान आते हैं, कभी कभी तकलीफ आते हैं, उस समय में भी शांति से कैसा रहना, यहाँ का शांति आप अपना दिल में अंदर गहराई में उठा के ले जाओ और अपना जीवन में उसको उसका प्रयोग करो बोल के भंते जी बताया। अभी भंते जी एक बहुत बड़ा बिहार का मुख्यस्थ है, वाट पानाना चाट भंते जी का बिहार का नाम है। तो वहाँ भंते जी तो भंते का जीवन बोलने से तो ध्यान उन करना, अकेला इसमें जाना, एकांत में जाना, ये सब तो है ही है, मगर वो मुख्यस्थ होने के कारण क्या करना पड़ता है, सारा बिहार में क्या काम चल रहा है वो सब भी तो देखना पड़ता है। मगर जब उसको देखते हैं तो मन का अंदर कोई विकार न जगे, वो ऐसा मन को रखते हुए देखना पड़ता है। ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा अच्छा प्रैक्टिस है बोल के भंते जी ने बताया। तो भंते जी ने बताया कि हम लोगों को तो जब धम्मा बोलते हैं तो चार आर्य सत्यों के बारे में बोलते हैं, दुख, दुख का कारण, दुख का अंत्य और दुख का अंत्य का मार्ग, ये सब के बारे में तो हम लोग ये करते हैं, मगर ये सब के साथ साथ छोटा मोटा काम में भी हम लोग कैसा रहते हैं उसका बारे में। भगवान के समय 6 भिक्षु लोग थे, उनको छबग्गिया बोलते थे, वो लोग बहुत बदमाशी करते थे, तो उनका कारण से भगवान बुद्ध बहुत हम लोगों को मार्गदर्शन देने का, नियम देने का मौका हो गया। तो अभी हम लोग ये पाठ करते आए हैं 227 जो भिक्षु लोगों का नियम है वो सब तो पहले पाठ कर चुके हैं। अभी आने वाला 5 तारीख को परसों पूर्णिमा का दिन है, यहाँ पे ये 227 नियम का इधर पाठ होगा आप लोगों को एक दिखाने के लिए। तो भंते जी बोलते हैं कि ये जब छोटा छोटा चीज हम लोग ये करते हैं, तो जैसे आज जो पाठ किया उसमें तो वो भंते लोग क्या करते थे, ठीक से बर्ताव नहीं करते थे, खेलते थे, मस्ती करते थे, लॉटरी खेलते थे, मजाक करते थे। तो ये सब को करते हुए भगवान बुद्ध उनको बुला के, उनको समझा के, डांट के, उनको समझा के ये किया है। तो बाहर का दुनिया कितना भी गड़बड़ का हो, मगर हम लोग अपना अंदर ठीक रखना है। और आज एक ऐसा पाठ किया, एक चित्त बोल के बहुत अच्छा श्रद्धावान उपासक था, उन्होंने भंते लोगों को बुलाया, सबसे अच्छा से अच्छा खाना इतना बनाया कि दान दिया, मगर उसमें एक सुधम्मा बोलने का एक भंते जी ने बोला ये सब है मगर ये वाला चीज इन्होंने नहीं बनाया, बोल के उसका ऊपर आपत्ति करके उन्होंने बोला। तो ये तो ठीक नहीं है बोल के भगवान का सामने उनको लाया। तो भगवान पूछा तुमको यही जो इतना चीज है वो सब छोड़ के तुमको जो नहीं है उसी के बारे में पूछने का था क्या, बोल के उनको भी डांट के एक अच्छा से नियम ये सब किया है। तो माफी मांगना ये जो है हम लोगों का एक बहुत सुंदर से भगवान सिखाया है। तो भगवान ने बोला वो उपासक से माफी मांगो, तो वो भंते जी को उससे माफी मांगने दिया है। तो इसका क्या दिखाई पड़ता है बोलने से, हम लोग गलतियां करते हैं, हम लोग गलतियां करने से माफी मांगना चाहिए। माफी मांगना, माफी देना, ये दोनों बहुत बड़ा चीज होते हैं। तो भगवान ये सब छोटा छोटा चीजों को लेके कैसा हम सिर्फ बड़ा बड़ा चीज हम लोग धर्म बोलने से नहीं सोचना है। 4 आर्य सत्य, त्रिलक्षण हो गया और निर्वाण का ढूंढ के जाना तो वो तो है ही है, मगर हम लोगों को छोटा छोटा चीजों में भगवान बुद्ध बताए दुख कटा बोलते हैं हम लोगों का, अगर भंते लोग गलती छोटा मोटा किया तो उसको भी कैसा ठीक करना है। तो ये विनय जो है हम लोगों का रोजाना जिंदगी में बढ़ाने के लिए, रोजाना जो हम लोगों का परिस्थितियां हैं उसी को लेके भगवान बुद्ध सिखाए हैं। तो भंते लोग और गृहस्थ लोग कैसा एक का ऊपर एक निर्भर है और एक को एक कैसा मदद करना है ताकि दोनों आगे बढ़ने का मौका मिले। तो हम लोगों का अंदर में आखिर में सब जाने दो बोल के सब कुछ छोड़ना है। हम लोगों का अपना बड़ा छोटा, ये मेरा ये तेरा, ये सब भेदभाव ये सब कुछ छोड़ना है। मगर हम लोग ये सब कैसा कर सकते हैं, अपने आप को छोटा मोटा चीजों में करेक्ट करते गया, अपने आप को सही करते गया तो ये कर सकता है। अभी इधर बोधि वृक्ष का नीचे बैठा है जो धम्म का नाभि है बोलते हैं, ये तो सब धम्म का सबसे बड़ा चीज है। इतना बड़ा धम्म को जानने के लिए भी हम लोगों का छोटा छोटा चीजों में भी मन देना है बोल के भंते जी बताए। माइक ऑन कीजिए भंते जी का.
I can. Okay. So the parallel to the bhikkhus' rules, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis vinaya, is for the lay community shila, and then, as you know, we have the Noble Eightfold Path. We can summarize it: shila, samadhi, meditation, and panya, wisdom. So, in our tradition, the forest tradition, we are not so well studied. We don't know all the fine details, but we have one general feeling around the practice, is that it always is the whole thing, the whole Eightfold Path. For example, we have the daily life things that we need to be careful about, being respectful to each other, being forgiving to each other, not fighting, not killing, not stealing, and not having sexual misconduct and alcohol and drugs and all these addictive things. That these are the basics which the Lord Buddha spelled out in detail for the monks, even more so, and for the laity as a foundation. But to be able to do that, we have to have meditation, we have to have peace of mind, we have to have the inspiration and the uplift that we can do better than our basic normal instincts, where we sometimes get aggressive, sometimes get impatient. So in that we train through meditation, through samadhi, sati, satipatthana. Many of our brothers and sisters in India have been practicing with the method of Goenkaji, for example, and it's a real resource of stability in one's mindfulness, and then to apply that to real life. That's the wisdom that we need. And also not only real life in terms of what we do next, in terms of our business, our family, or managing the monastery, but also for real life in terms of seeing, look, actually, the Buddha pointed to that life is short, like hard it is to live a life that's bound by death. Gitchang machanang jivitang. It's hard to live this life if we know it ends at some point. So we need to do things properly. We need to be well aware. We need to have that peace of mind to keep in mind that our time is limited. And this is really the main force that brings so many of us here, that we have that bigger picture again, that life is not so easy and it's short and we are bound to have some suffering. And so we use meditation in order to calm down and be clear in what we're doing. And we have the guidelines of the Buddha in terms of Shila, Ati-sila for the monks, and then and something that we educate ourselves in. We try to learn more and more about the refinements. We express it in our daily actions on mundane level, but it takes us to a different space of being beyond the trouble of the world. Because if we have a pure heart, not only equipped with peace when we're meditating, but also carry this pure heart out into the world, then this becomes one whole thing. We are able to then face the challenges and let go of the things that want things to be special for us, or easy for us, or always happy for us. But we're right there in adapting to whatever is happening. We can let go. We can let go of our preferences, not liking anything in very specific way, and not being averse to things or people in a specific way. We just see this as a thing of like, this is all the theater of the normal daily life, the theater show, the comedy show of samsara. And we go back to saying, I am doing things that are profitable to peace, they're leading to dispassion, they're leading to non-accumulation of these things like that are only there for a short time. They're leading to letting go, leading to not desiring the biggest, the greatest things in the world, not being content, and then they lead to a sense of inner peace and seclusion and energy that comes from that package of applying sila, applying the meditation, and applying wisdom to our real life. And then eventually we're just very easygoing. Wherever we go, we're easy to get along with. We're very comfortable with whatever comes. Somebody invites us to a full buffet, we don't say, that one is lacking. But we're so happy, everything's there. Or if it's only a small bit, they invite us to a glass of water, we say, oh, wonderful, I'm thirsty. So we've got the whole picture. And these qualities of dispassion, and dispassion, not being bound up with things, not being clinging to things, not accumulating things, the quality of not desiring big things and being content, quality of going inwards, going to a place of seclusion, and the quality of good energy and to be easy to look after. These are 8 Dhammas that will be coming up in the Chulavagga recitation. These are the Dhammas that the Lord Buddha taught Mahapajapati Gotami. It's very beautiful set of parameters which we can always check for ourselves. Is what we're doing Dhamma? Is it Vinaya? Is it the teachings of the Lord Buddha? So the first one is like Viraka, to have dispassion, not get infatuated, not being like a teenager just on honeymoon basically and messing up everything afterwards. So have a sense of coolness, Viraka. And then Visangyoga is like to be not fettered, not be bound up, not be say tied up with things. We all want freedom anyway, so we don't want to be slaves of things. So we can ask ourselves: is what we're doing leading to a more tight thing, where we are tied up with things, where we are addicted to things, where we can't let go anymore? And then the non-accumulation and the desiring of the smaller option. If somebody gives you a whole bar of chocolate, you just take one piece. That's a joy of like just not desiring much, and then you can share, you can give, and that's a beautiful thing to embellish our daily life. And so when we have a choice, then we say, is it the smaller option? Small is beautiful. We take the lesser path. That's a good one. We can be mahichataya, like somebody who desires little and not desiring big things. Mahichataya, not desiring big things. And then we can have the feeling of contentment. And this is one thing. If somebody asks you, what are you doing next? And then we can check, is this like something that I really need, or am I content already? For example, I would love to go to this holy site every week of the year, 52 times, but I don't think it's really possible, and it would be quite a hassle. And so I say, no, I'm already content where I am. I live in Ubon Ratchathani, it's great. There's a peaceful monastery there, and there's lots of faithful people. As much as I love Bodh Gaya, once a year, maybe twice a year, I'm happy with whatever there is. So we can be like a fewness of wishes and contentment. And then we have that sense of seclusion. We can go back to a simple life, a life like the hermits, like the ascetics. When you read about the teachings of the Buddha in this holy land, how he was walking around the Magadan countryside here in Bodh Gaya for the Jetian Valley, for example. Like he was walking like a pilgrim, like wherever he goes, everything is very simple and natural. And so we can have that sense of seclusion from the troubles of the world, seclusion from luxury, seclusion from convenience, going back to the roots. Like maybe you see some of the monks put up their meditation seat under a great banyan tree or a great Bodhi tree. Just like the Lord Buddha, when he went to Uruvela Senanikama, he saw this beautiful Neranjara river and the place suitable for Viveka. And that's exactly what he then, when he was in enlightened, he said, oh, Viveka Santasa Tutasa, like the bliss of being secluded, being peaceful in yourself. So we can carry that on, and wherever we go with a sense of detachment, Viveka. And that brings up energy, that brings up the sacred power of like, it's all in my heart. I don't need the entertainment and the extra stuff. I don't need technical gadgets, actually. I don't need to have like fast cars, fast trains, fast planes. Actually, I can also walk. I can also be very happy with little things, and I get energy from that. Knowing that we renounce something, it gives us a sense of wholesome pride, a sense of fulfillment. Yes, I can do without it. Yes, I can let go. Yes, I can do little things. Yes, I'm happy to share. I don't need the big part for me. So these are things that the Buddha pointed out to Mahapajapati Gotami, the first Buddhist nun, who asked him for advice when going into seclusion, when going into meditation. And he said, like, these are the criteria that you can check out whether what you're doing is in line with the Buddha's teachings, or whether it is not in line, whether it leads to the fulfillment of the Dhamma and the Vinaya. So this is like another little section for Venerable Bhanteji to summarize, and then I'll open up for some questions.
Bhante ji बताए, अभी भगवान बुद्ध हम लोगों को, भिक्षु लोगों को, भिक्षुनी लोगों को नियम दिए हैं, उसी के अनुसार गृहस्थ लोगों को भी दिए हैं। शील समाधि पन्या में कैसा बढ़ना है उसके लिए दिए हैं। अभी भंते जी बताए कि वो फॉरेस्ट ट्रेडिशन से आते हैं, उधर जंगल में रहते हैं, वहाँ अभी उसका अंदर रहते हुए भी बाहर का चीज भी तो, बाहर का दुनिया भी है। तो अभी ये देखने से भंते जी बोलते हैं कि वो बहुत लंबा चौड़ा पढ़ाई तो नहीं करते हैं, मगर एक चीज तो बहुत अच्छा से समझता है कि चाहे वो जंगल में हो या बाहर में हो, मन ये सब एक है, ये अलग अलग नहीं है, क्योंकि मन को कैसा शांत करके रखना है उसका बारे में है। तो अभी उपासक उपासिका लोगों के लिए पंचशील दिए हैं। तो ये जो है हमारा जीवन का आधार बनना है, इसको ध्यान करना बहुत जरूरी है, ताकि आपको शील को पालन करने के लिए बहुत मदद करे। जागृत भाव सती के बारे में, सतीपट्ठाना के बारे में बहुत लोग गोयंका जी के कारण से ध्यान के बारे में जानते हैं। तो इसके साथ साथ उसको जीवन में कैसा लगाना, तो ये दोनों एक ही है, ये अलग अलग नहीं है। चाहे वो आप लोग घर बार अपना परिवार संभाल रहे हो या हम लोग इधर विहार संभाल रहा है, तो ये जीवन बहुत छोटा है। इस छोटा जीवन में हम लोग मन को शांति भी पाना है, और ये जो छोटा समय है इसी का अंदर हम लोग ध्यान भी करना है और शील बढ़ाना है, और बड़ा और भी अधिशील भी बढ़ाना है। तो हम लोगों का जीवन में सूक्ष्म करते जाना है, हमारा मन को साफ करते जाना है, और हमारा रोजाना जीवन में ये जो साफ करते जाएंगे, सूक्ष्मता के साथ जाएंगे, फिर हम लोग जाने दो बोल के भी छोड़ सकता है। अपना अंदर जब शांति मिला तो हम लोग ये चाहिए चाहिए बोलने का जरूरत नहीं है। और अभी हम लोग बड़ा बड़ा चीज चाहिए, ये चाहिए, वो जरूरत नहीं है। हम लोगों का मन में अगर संतृप्ति है तो बहुत बड़ा ताकत आता है, जिस ताकत से हम लोग शील को पालन कर सकता है और ध्यान को भी कर सकता है। अभी हम लोग ऐसा नहीं है कि इतना बड़ा खाना का चीज चाहिए और एक खाने में ये नहीं है वो नहीं है बोलने का जरूरत नहीं है। एक गिलास अगर पानी भी दिया है तो भी हम लोग बहुत खुशी से उसको स्वीकार करके रह सकते हैं। तो ये संतृप्ति जो है मन का बहुत बड़ा गुण है। तो भगवान बुद्ध महाप्रजापति गौतमी को 8 बहुत बड़ा चीज बताया। जब उन्होंने अकेला एकांतवास में जा रही थी तो उनको भगवान बुद्ध बताया, ये विराग को ये करो, मतलब लोभ, ये संतृप्ति को बढ़ाओ, लोभ का पीछे मत जाओ। बंधन को छोड़ो, बंधन में फंसते हुए मत रहो, उससे स्वतंत्र होके रहो, और ये चाहिए वो चाहिए बोल के इकट्ठा मत करो, चीज का ऊपर अकड़ के पकड़ के मत बैठो। और भगवान बताया कि छोटा मोटा चीज में ही खुशी से रहो, बड़ा बड़ा इच्छा करके दुख को पैदा मत करो। जैसे बनते जी तो बताया, इधर इतना सुंदर जगह में बनते हर हफ्ता 52 बार साल में इधर आना मांगता है, मगर संतृप्ति है तो अपना विहार में भी बहुत खुशी से रहते हैं, अपना श्रद्धालु उपासक लोगों के साथ वो जो सिखा के उनके साथ रहते हैं। तो भगवान महाप्रजापति को ये भी बताया, मन का एकांत को आप बढ़ाओ बोल के बोला। तो इस तरह अंदर का जब सुख है तब बाहर का मनोरंजन का इसका उसका पीछे जाना है बोल के जरूरत नहीं है। जो मन का अंदर ही वो बहुत बड़ा सुख मिलता है। तो ये महाप्रजापति गौतमी को भगवान ने बताए थे।
So, is there anybody who would like to ask something that I can give guidance with? Usually we have like the opportunity to ask a few questions at the end.
किसी का कुछ प्रश्न है तो पूछ सकते हैं। बंते जी प्रश्न पूछने के लिए अवकाश दिए हैं।
Vandami Panteji. My simple question is, we get annoyed with certain things like just now. They are doing prayer so loudly and it's very difficult to, not get annoyed. Such situations arise in life very often and sometimes it becomes difficult to control our emotions. How to deal with this, Bandeji? Please.
Yeah. The question is how to do with somehow irritating experiences that we cannot avoid. And this is very, very important because sometimes it may well be in our inner strength to just face them and say, never mind. And if your energy is good enough at that moment, you'll sense it. You'll have a smile on your face and you'll say, never mind. He or she is just doing their thing. I can still be contained. I can still keep my own values. I can still be kind. And but sometimes you notice also through your own mindfulness that maybe your good energy isn't enough for the healing of the situation. Then sometimes it is also okay then just to withdraw from the situation. And a good example is that even the Buddha, who was fully enlightened, he also went in seclusion every now and again. When the monks in Kosambi were quarreling, he saw there's nothing he can do now, and he just left and went to the forest. And even more so, us, we don't have that peace of mind. We would possibly say unskillful things. Then it's also good to have the mindfulness and wisdom to know yourself good enough that you can say, I need a break. I need to move away from this. Sometimes it can just simply be that you say, I need to sleep over it. Ask me again tomorrow. Or next time we'll see again. And trust that there'll be a chance that maybe you can communicate things more easily. So that's a function of wisdom. And it's not only the high ideals that you should be able to do everything perfectly, but also to know yourself when you see that things are going a bit off the track. Then just to be restrained enough not to react to that and go away maybe or do something else. Listen to a Dhamma talk or think of the Bodhi tree. Just take your time. And in a situation like this, we cannot change it. It's been like this so many times. So we know this already. So actually it's quite fun. I can almost say I enjoy it. I would miss it if it wasn't that we had this like special chanting in the background. And also, similar to in my monastery, sometimes you get the dogs walking into the shala. So yes, it's not a perfect place, and sometimes we just try to smile, and then sometimes we actually chase away the dogs. But be careful not to be angry with it, because that's the thing where things go into a landslide of like then multiplying. And as the Buddha said, if you have a sense of anger, aversion, or hatred even, or revenge, then it will never be peaceful. That's a very, very profound ancient wisdom that the Buddha said. Like, if we still have a seed of I really want to kind of retaliate, say, pay back with unfriendliness, then the issue won't stop, that the Buddha said. So we find ways to extract ourselves and go inwards.
नमो बुद्धा। मुझे एक क्वेश्चन पूछना है हिंदी में। मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगी, इंग्लिश में नहीं आता है। मतलब पूरे वर्ल्ड बुद्धा को इनडायरेक्टली फॉलो करते हैं, तो डायरेक्टली फॉलो करने में उनको क्या दिक्कत होती है?
Her question is, if I'm not wrong, why don't we follow Buddha directly? Why we follow Buddha indirectly? What is the problem in following Buddha directly? Is her question.
Yes, we try. We try as much as we can to take it directly. Sometimes times have changed and the Buddha was silent about certain things that are happening these days. For example, the way people spend their lives in front of screens and with fast economy and money and things like that. The Buddha didn't predict or didn't give us any guidelines. So then we have to take the spirit of the Buddha's teachings and practice in that. And that relates to a lot of transfer. We need to translate the teachings from the Pali Canon into our daily experience, into our situation right now. And wherever we can follow them directly, we do. Sometimes we memorize very simple teachings of the Buddha, and then it's almost like magic, they come back to us in the situations that we need them. Then we can feel, yes, we're practicing directly in the footsteps of the Buddha. Or when we're practicing according to these, for example, these 8 principles that the Buddha was teaching to Mahapajapati, then we can always say that's always right, to do something that leads to dispassion, to fewness of wishes, to contentment. That's always right. And then we are practicing the Buddha's teachings directly. But it's up to us to spot these things and not be dissatisfied with it. Like also in meditation, letting go, an ultimate sense of freedom. I believe everybody has a little bit of that. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. Otherwise we would be doing all kinds of other things. And but if we have that little seed of wanting to do exactly what the Buddha wanted us to do, then if we have that, then we're nourished to make this more whole and more spreading towards other areas where we possibly are in situations that aren't so easy. For example, in meditation, if the Buddha says let go, or just watch the breath, or Pachupatita hoti, just be established in the present moment, then we're doing it directly in line with what the Buddha asked us to do. But many times we actually cannot. We're somehow misled by other things, like many factors coming in, the kilesas, our restlessness, for example. And then we need a way of coming back and using the wisdom faculty to bring those teachings back to a direct path. If we can do it, whenever we can, we are happy. We'll be so happy. And whenever we cannot, then we try to link whatever happiness we had in certain experiences to the new experiences. So would be my answer. Why are we not following the Buddha directly? Yes, we are in some moments, but many moments we actually forget about it. So then we remind ourselves, and that's also part of mindfulness, to be able to call yourself back. No, the Buddha said, less is more. Or the Buddha said, renounce things. Or the Buddha said, does this lead to passion? Then don't do it. Does it lead to addiction? Then don't do it. So we need a lot of very skillful tricks to catch ourselves to be on the path of the Buddha. I believe that's really the case, and that's what we need to train ourselves in. If we were in a very conducive society where everybody around us is spiritually minded, it may be easy. You get backwind from other people helping you to stay on the path. And I wish that to everybody, to make spiritual communities where you get that sense of support. And then it becomes easy to say, yes, I'm in the footsteps of the Buddha. But if you're out in a more secular situation, sometimes it becomes really complicated. And then all we can do is find back the way to the direct experience that we already have. I believe everybody here has had a sense of peace arising in the heart, despite outwardly difficult situations. And then we recollect that capacity. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can be in the Buddha's teachings, in the Dhamma, despite obstructing things outside.
ये उपासिका क्वेश्चन पूछा था कि भगवान बुद्ध का धर्म को सीधा साधा क्यों फॉलो नहीं करते हैं, इनडायरेक्टली करने को ये करते हैं ना। तो भंते जी बताए कहाँ भंते जी बताए अभी कभी कभी हम लोग सीधा साधा उसको पालन करते हैं, कभी कभी इनडायरेक्टली भी करते हैं, करना भी पड़ता है। अगर आपको अभी आपको कोई तकलीफ है, कुछ है, तो उस समय अगर आपको भगवान बुद्ध का धम्म मालूम है तो सीधा साधा उसको कर सकते हैं। कभी कभी ऐसा है सिचुएशन जो भगवान बुद्ध का धर्म का जो सार है उसको लेके आप उसको उस परिस्थिति में कैसा उसको चलाना है, आपको थोड़ा दिमाग चलाना पड़ेगा। इसीलिए बंते जी भी बताए कुछ धम्म को हम लोग याद करके भी रखना अच्छा है, क्योंकि कभी कभी वो तकलीफ का समय में वो याद जो है यादगारी काम में आ जाता है। जैसे महाप्रजापति गौतमी को भगवान बुद्ध ने बता के भेजा कि लोभ मत करो, संतृप्ति से रहो, जाने दो बोल के छोड़ो, ये सब जो उन्होंने सिखा के भेजा तो उन्होंने उसको याद करके पालन भी कर सकते थे। तो अभी अगर हम लोग भगवान बुद्ध का सीधा पालन करना है तो इस वक्त में क्या हो रहा है उसको देखेगा तो भगवान का धर्म के अनुसार इधर ही है। हम लोग अपना खिलेश जो है क्लेश मन का विकारों को हम लोगों को गलत रास्ता में ले जाने को नहीं देना है और अपना आप में हिम्मत रखना है। जो धम्म मुझे मालूम है मैं इसको कर सकता हूँ बोल के हिम्मत से खुशी खुशी से उसको ये करना है। इसीलिए भूल भी जाएगा मगर फिर भी बात बार बार याद करने के लिए कोशिश करना है, ताकि हम लोग गलत रास्ता में न जाए। इसीलिए भगवान बुद्ध भी बताया, अभी हम लोगों का एक धम्म का एक धम्म मित्र लोग अगर साथ में हैं, ये बहुत जरूरी है। अगर हम कुछ गलत कर रहे हैं तो भी वो लोग हम लोगों को भी सही रास्ता में ले जाते हैं। तो इसीलिए भंते जी बताया कि हम लोग अपना कुछ चीज डायरेक्टली जैसे भगवान बताया वो भी करना है, कुछ चीज भगवान का धर्म से लेके कुशलता के साथ उसको जीवन में लगाना है।
So I'd like to summarize by myself, because we have another only short period. Just wanted to give one more conclusion, because it is really special that we are here all together at the spot where the Lord Buddha realized the ultimate teachings, and at the same time we're reciting the relative conventional teachings for daily life, which have been kept over 2,600 years through the recitation of the Pali, of the words of the Buddha. And so we're fortunate to have like the ultimate teachings of letting go of peace, which we desire so much, plus the interim do's and don'ts, Shila, and the Sikkhapada, the training path for the monks and nuns, and a gradual training leading towards the full understanding of the Dhamma. And also we are fortunate that we share this, because we are coming from so many different particular situations of life. Just the diversity of this group here is unique, and we're all under the umbrella of the universal Dhamma. At the same time, we're reciting the teachings in particular, and have kept these guidelines that the Buddha outlined, even in the little daily life things for the monastic sangha, for the laity. And so we have many, many tools together. And this can be a good backwind for ourselves. If we feel confused, if we feel distracted, if we feel there are obstacles, to come back to that sense of, okay, there is a universal truth, there is a universal teaching. The Buddha found it, spelled it out in 84,000 Dhammas, and we're able to recollect certain parts that are meaningful for us and use them, apply them directly to our life. And we can meditate, contemplate, come to peace with the particular situation that we're in. And on this gathering, it speaks for itself that there are so many different nations, different people, different languages, even nationalities here. So, and we're all under the umbrella of the teachings of the Buddha, both in the ultimate sense that we're on the spot of the Buddha's ultimate realization, and in the conventional sense where we recite the teachings. And it's great that we're able to do this here in this place in India, where the Buddha lived and taught, and have that connection. I love it to be in the old holy sites, or anything that speaks of that there is a timeless truth that the Buddha pointed out in various ways. And so we are fortunate. So I wanted to add this as a summary. We are very fortunate to be here, and may the spirit of this gathering and many further gatherings carry us to make this world a more livable, peaceful, a more Dhammic world. And may everybody prosper in the Dhamma and realize the path of the Buddha's teachings by himself, herself, in no long time. I'd like to offer that for reflection.
साधु साधु। भंते जी अभी समय का अभाव का कारण से इधर समाप्त करने चाहते हैं। तो अभी हम लोग ऐसा जगह में बैठे हैं जहाँ पे भगवान बुद्ध का सबसे परमार्थिक सत्य को जान लिए थे। ये तो बहुत बड़ा सत्य का ये हो गया भगवान बुद्ध का जीवन में, मगर हम लोग जो अभी पाठ कर रहे हैं पाली भाषा में, ये भी बहुत जरूरी है, ताकि इसी से तो हम लोग सीखते हैं। हम लोगों का जिंदगी में अकड़ के पकड़ के नहीं रख के जाने दो बोल के छोड़ने का ताकत बढ़ाना है। और हम लोगों का भंते लोगों का हो, भिक्षु भिक्षुनी लोगों का नियम का तो हो ही गया है, सब लोगों के लिए है। तो अभी छोटा जिंदगी का छोटा छोटा चीजों में हम लोग, चाहे भंते लोग हो और या उपासक उपासिका हो, इस समय हम लोगों का ज्ञान से हम लोग देखेंगे, उसको बढ़ाएंगे। भगवान बुद्ध का जो धर्म है, 44,000 धर्म जो है, ये सब हम लोगों को वही 84,000 जो 84,000 जो धम्म है, ये हम लोगों को सभी को उसी तरफ ले जाता है। और इसलिए हम लोग ध्यान उन भी करेंगे, जिंदगी का अंदर भी उसको डालेंगे। हम लोग अलग अलग देश से, अलग अलग भाषा से, सभी लोग हम लोग भगवान बुद्ध का छत्री का अंदर इधर छाया में आए हैं। तो भगवान बुद्ध का ये, चाहे हम लोग दूसरा पवित्र जगह में जाए या दूसरा कोई भी जगह में जाए, जहाँ पे भगवान बुद्ध ये अकालिक सर्वकालिक धम्म को सिखाए हैं, उसको हम लोग याद करेंगे। बहुत हम इधर बहुत खुशी हूँ, बहुत भाग्यशाली हूँ, और हम लोग धम्म के साथ जिएंगे, शांति को पाएंगे और आगे बढ़ेंगे। उसका अनुभव, सबसे बड़ा चीज का अनुभव भी करेंगे। आप सभी को भंते जी आशीर्वाद किया है कि जल्दी से जल्दी वो जो महास्थिति है निब्बाण का, वो जो है जल्दी से जल्दी मिले। साधु साधु साधु।
खुश रहो।
साधु साधु साधु।
ओ साधु साधु साधु।
एक स्पेशल बुद्ध स्टैचू है। एक बहुत विशेष भगवान बुद्ध का प्रतिमा वांगमो दीक्षित जी ने भंते जी को इधर सबका तरफ से दान दिए हैं। साधु साधु साधु। क्या बोला? यही मशीन क्या उधर तो है ना, अलग तो पूरा सेटअप हो जाएगा, मैनेज कर। कल हम लोग फिर सुबह 7, 7:15 तक आ जाइए। 7:30 से हम लोग शुरू करेंगे त्रिपिटक का पाठ।
So we once again thank most respected Achan Kewali for this beautiful Dhamma talk. I would just like to let you